from Universal Orlando Halloween Horror Nights.
I am Ed Edmonds with Distortions and also the Making Monster TV show. You know, Marcia and I have experienced a lot, done a lot over the last 36 years, but it's pretty darn puny compared to Universal Studios. And so this is the team with the Halloween Horror Nights, been doing it for 25 years, which is amazing in itself. According to the print, it's the twisted minds of the art and design creative team. So here they are. This is Rick Spencer.
Good to see. I see some old friends. I see some new friends. And for any of you who don't know us, well, hopefully you'll get to know us a little bit better today, and you'll come and visit us on this year's 25th anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights. So I'm going to let these gentlemen introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they do, and then we're going to take some Q&A.
Yo, can you hear me? My bear. Still, folks come in. I am Manuel Cordero. I am a scenic designer, or set designer. Our role as designers is mainly the one of the art director that you see in film and television for the Halloween Horror Nights project. And my role is to work with the haunted houses, pretty much. There's another gentleman, his name is David Hughes, who's not here with us, but he's also one of the lead scenic designers. And then, of course, Nick Collins here on the other side of the road, who works as a designer as well. And I'm very excited about the 25 years that we're celebrating. I hope that you guys all go and check it out, because it just gets better every single year. It's an outstanding project, as you know, and I'm very happy to be part of it. And here's Mike Aiello.
Hello. These chairs are really comfortable.
These are way more comfortable than we should be able to sit in.
They are chairs that I don't exactly know how I should sit in them.
I've been having myself.
I feel like I'm laying so far back, like I should be watching something. This is weird. All right, I'll sit up here like this. That feels better. Yes, that feels better. Hi, I am Michael Aiello. I am Director of Creative Development for Universal Orlando Entertainment, which means our team is responsible for all of the live shows, live performances, marquee events that happen at Universal Orlando, with one of those things being Halloween Horror Nights. So you know about it. Great, cool. As everyone said, this is our 25th anniversary for the event. I have not been creating the event for 25 years. My role started around 2002, which was my first year writing Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. That was fun. But I came to the event every single year. Fright Nights, through the first year I was actually a character in the event. I was a character in 1997 in a maze called Hotel Hell. I popped out of a washing machine 88 times an hour, and I loved it. And that's kind of where I caught the bug of Halloween Horror Nights, wanting to work the event in any capacity possible. I did Chainsaw Drill Team for a year or two. I was the captain of the Fritanic. It was awesome. They had the wheel and everything, and they had, rain and things behind me, and I'm screaming, near, far, wherever you are, at the top of my lungs. I got in trouble for that. But it was awesome. And then in 2002, I was given the privilege of co-writing Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure, and that was kind of my way into the creative side of Halloween Horror Nights. From that year on, I did Bill and Ted from 2002 until 2010. Wrote and directed the show in 2010. But in between there, creating a lot of the mazes from 2005 until present day, helping the team create some of the amazing mazes and street experiences that we have at the event. It's an awesome gig, and I love every single minute of it, and I love all these guys up here, and the hundreds of people that work on the event year after year that aren't up here with us. They deserve just as much accolade and praise because they work so damn hard on that event. So many designers and prop builders and makeup artists and lighting specialists and you name it. I mean, it is an army of people that put this event on year after year. It's a year-round process. We start as soon as the event closes. We actually, before the event closes, we're already creating the next year's event, or we're getting things rolling for the next year. So it is an awesome cycle that we go through every single year, putting this thing on for the amazing people who attended every single year. So thank you for being here. I'll pass it over here to my good friend, Mr. Michael Burnett. How you doing, Mike?
Hi everybody, my name is Michael Burnett. I'm the makeup designer for Universal Orlando. I started back in I grew up in California, so I've been a huge fan of Universal since I was a kid. I got into this through the horror movies. Of course, Frankenstein and The Mummy and The Wolfman, all that inspired me. I started working in Universal Hollywood, so this will be, I started working in Universal Hollywood in 1985, so it's been 30 years now for me with Universal. And this will be my 12th Halloween in Orlando. So I get to work with, and like Michael said, we do events throughout the year, including makeup. We do Mardi Gras, and Grinchmas is a real big one for us with the Who's and the Grinch, as well as the event, the shows in the park, Beetlejuice and Olive Oil. We do so. We're doing makeup all the time, but Halloween is of course the big one for us. And I got a great team of makeup artists that I work with to do that. And so I'm really looking forward to the 25th and all the cool stuff that we know about that we can't tell you about, but you'll get to see really soon.
Tell us a little bit about some of your staff. What else do they do?
Well, we have about 60, 65, 70 makeup artists that are seasonal makeup artists that work with us, throughout the year. But some of them, we've got about 6 of our artists that were on Face Off. If anybody watches Face Off, it seems about every season, every other season, we've got somebody from Orlando. So it's we got a really great team here. We're really lucky to have that group. So I'll pass it over to Patrick.
Awesome. Hey everybody, how's it going? Good. These chairs are far more comfortable than we should be allowed to sit in. I'm Patrick Braillard. I'm one of the show directors from Creative Development in Mike's group, and one of my jobs is to create the mazes for Halloween Horror Nights. Working with the set designers and all of the amazing people in the art and design department within the entertainment division is a dream come true. It's literally the best job on the planet. I have been working with Horror Nights in particular since 2007. I was a performance captain for the Streets. And then in 2008, I came back and was a show director for the Houses. And then in 2009, was invited back not only as a show director for the Houses, but also as part of the concept team. And I've stayed on the concept team ever since. With a small stint as the show director and writer for Bill and Ted in 2011. I'm the only show director and writer to ever do it for 1 year, so I'm the answer to a trivia question. It's true. It's very, very true. It's true. I was gracefully asked not back. And that's okay. That's okay. Because it allowed me to come back to the Houses, which is a blast. As far as that man has 12 years, I have 1. No, but what Mike said couldn't ring more true. He said there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people that work on this event, and it's true. Horror Night starts as a very small thing. It starts with 3, 4, 5 people in a room for weeks on end, batting around ideas and putting things on paper, note cards, people yelling at each other, screaming, lots of food. And then it eventually works its way through the design process and collaboration process until finally every single person working at Universal Orlando, at some way, shape, or form, has their hands in Halloween. Everybody works Horror Nights. It doesn't matter if they are working during the day doing direct sales for Horror Nights or they're popping out a washing machine 88 times an hour. I mean, it really is a property-wide event And it always boggles my mind as being somebody who gets the opportunity and the honor to work with these people, that that's not all we do. We do Horror Nights, but there are so many other things that we do as far as the marquee events throughout the course of the year, and yet the pace never slows down, and we're still able to deliver a quality product, or at least we've delivered 24 quality products. We'll see about this year. But I want to pass the mic off to Nick Collins.
Guys, I'm Nick. Sorry for everybody over there. You're really not missing anything. I have more of a face for radio. That's why I work at set designer. My name is Nick Collins. I'm one of the scenic designers with the art design team. I've been designing for Universal for 5 years now. I've worked with every major theme park company in the country and decided to quit messing around with everybody and come work with the best. So just really stoked to be a designer with these guys. Every day I'm just in awe that I get to work with people who are the absolute best at what they do. And it also is cool that 10 months out of the year, at any point, I could be talking about, well, what would the blood look like if it was on that side of the wall? You know, what about over here? Wouldn't this rust be falling here? So it's a really good first world problem to have. But just really thrilled to be here and excited to talk to you guys and come out to 25. It's going to be really cool.
And last but not least, I call him Dad, but Rick Spencer.
That's right, I am his dad. But he's on stage. We've been in plays together where I play his dad, and he was an awful son to me. He drove me to drink. Actually, TJ and I worked together with the legendary Truth folks out of Princeton to test emerging technologies. So we're always constantly looking at new ways to tell stories through technology that you might not be too familiar with yet, but for those of you who were with us last year, you saw we tried some new things. We had to speak to a ghost for the first time through a tablet, and we have some exciting stuff that we're experimenting with this year. I think the best thing, though, I know everybody wants to know a little bit about what this year is going to be, and I think Mike Caniello can tell us a little bit more than I can.
About this year?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
October, right?
That's a loaded question, Rick. October. It'll happen in October, well, September. Well, here's one thing I gotta say. I know anybody on the Twitter account who's on the Horror Nights Twitter, cool. If you're not, feel free to do so. That is run most of the time by me, some of the time by our marketing department. But whenever you see something that doesn't sound like marketing, that's me. I do love the retweets of "Stop spamming." I do love those. But if you've been on the Twitter feed, you've seen some things kind of happening over the last 24 hours. Some popcorn boxes going out, and some weird lettering and bits of website links and things like that. That I think eventually pointed to there's a corridor, I think, picture that's out there right now of a corridor. One thing I have to state, unfortunately, I had things to show via screens that are up here that obviously are not intended for any sort of use, because I cannot hook up my laptop to any of this. Who knew? So unfortunately, the things, some of the videos I had planned to show, I can't show. I know. I'm sorry. Because I know I said we got the Cindy video we were going to show, but unfortunately, I cannot. But I do still have the concept for an icon that never saw the light of day that I don't think anyone really knows about. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Not Eddie. No. Not Cindy. No. This is a concept by the name of, it was called Crow. It was a 2-page draft that I wrote in December of 2007 that would have connected Carnival of Carnage to the next year's event. But that year became Bloody Mary instead. And no one has really even heard this. Patrick, I think, read it a couple of years ago. I haven't even read it or looked at it in probably 7 years. So I'm going to read it for you guys today, if that's okay with you. We'll get to that. Okay? But I feel bad for not being able to show the videos, so as a consolation, I'm going to read you something that probably only 5 people have ever heard of a potential icon that we would have had for Halloween Horror Nights. Yeah, we need like a campfire. Yeah, I can just pull my laptop and we can all kind of gather around.
Hey, Mike?
I'm sure the fire marshal will love that.
Hey, Mike, it's safe to say that's as close to Cindy as they're ever going to get.
In this bag, yes. We keep her in here.
She's in here.
Anyway, so while you do that, I'll tell a little bit about what happens when a complete campaign gets trashed at the last minute. You wanna go ahead?
Okay, yeah. Well,
So-
why don't we do some Q&A and then we'll do that as like maybe a finale.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sure you have questions. So we have one microphone here, and I've got one I can run back if someone wants to raise their hand with a question. I'll come by. Oh, stand by. Okay, right here.
Why don't we do this? If you guys have a question, why don't we go from the back? We'll do this Comic-Con style. There's a mic here up front as well, I think. There's a mic right there. If you've got a question, why don't you line up at that mic, and then we'll do it that way. That'll be efficient, and we'll be able to get to as many people as possible.
Does that mean I can sit on the stage?
You can sit in the comfy chair, Rick. Is that mic on?
Yes.
Yes!
People can
That works! It works!
As an aspiring artist who always loved Halloween Horror Nights, Bloody Mary was actually my first year I went. How do you guys get into the business if you want to try to get into the business?
Yes. A question we get a lot.
Yeah,
It is.
I assume.
Everybody on this stage has a different story of how they got into doing Halloween Horror Nights. For me, it was merely right place, right time. Literally, it was like lucky. Okay. I was a scare. I started at the park in '96. I started at Jaws. God rest its soul. We're coming home. I still know the entire thing. I know the entire script. I was in ride and show for the first 2 years of my career at Universal. I worked at Nickelodeon for a little while. I basically was told by my supervisor, "You're changing the script too much. I don't want to fire you. Please go audition for entertainment." So I did, and got a job at Game Lab at Nickelodeon Studios. Working there as a lab assistant, taking people on tours of the studio where they used to film, Clarissa Explains It All, and Kenan and Kel, and all that, and do Double Dare, Double 2000, all those things. And then I did Blues Brothers for a long time. I was in Elwood and the Blues Brothers show at Universal for years and years and years. And then being a scare actor kind of, again, caught the bug. And I wrote a script out one day for Bill and Ted on my breaks. And this was back when we could actually accept things from people, which we're not allowed to do anymore. But this was before that time. I basically just handed a script to the show director at the time. His name is Michael Roddy. I'm sure he's a really cool guy. Good friend of mine to this day. We are brothers from another mother. I handed him this Bill and Ted script and said, "Hey, if you like it, great. If you don't, throw it away. It doesn't matter. I can't do anything with it. So here, please take these thoughts." And about a week later, I got a call in my green room at Blues Brothers saying he wanted me to come in for about 6 hours and help him write the last half of the 2001 show. And I came in and did it. It was awesome. And then Michael Roddy moved away from Universal to pursue other things. And I was the only one in the books next to the Bill and Ted line in the budget. So they called me and a guy named Kenny Bobble and said, "Hey, we want to bring you back in to write Bill and Ted again." "Oh yeah, which part?" "The whole thing." And that was it. That was literally it, because my name was still on the books from the year prior for 6 hours. And that was my in at Art and Design. It was how I made all these wonderful friends and just grew in art and design. It was just writing Bill and Ted and said, "Hey, let me take a crack writing a maze." And in 2005, for the 2006 year, the Sweet 16 year, I developed half of the mazes. Roddy was back at that point and wrote the other half of the mazes. And it just was this kind of progression. It was lucky, and everybody else has a different story,
What specifically are you interested in?
The design portion of the mazes itself.
Like the scenic part?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk a little about the way to, like in my case, I ran into Halloween Horror Nights out of practicing my career as a set designer. And what a wonderful thing that happened, right? But prior to that, I had worked on TV, film, theater. I have a theater background, and I studied set design, both with my bachelor's and master's in it. So I'm a little more of a traditional professional in that I did all those things that your parents tell you that you should do. You know, you have to go to school and you got to do that, and I did. But I wanted to put them into practice. You know, it's not only training that is going to get you there, but you have to be proactive. You have to know where you're going to be. So if you're planning on designing, taking interior design, architecture, or set design, do so, keeping in mind that eventually you would like to do a project like this, and then apply your knowledge and your contacts. And I mean, it's a bit of a long road, but it's not that long because it really is worth it. It really is worth it. And then the satisfaction of applying the theater, the film, the television theories into Halloween, it's outstanding, because if you really look around when you go into those mazes, you see all those disciplines manifested into them. And now more than ever, because we're getting so detailed, we're getting so critical with ourselves, with our process, that, the fact that you're thinking about studying it, it's the way to go. So I really, I don't know if any of you guys want to add on to this.
Well, I can add something just as far as the scenic goes. In addition to the training and being, familiar with what, scenic design is and just good rules of design, there's a saying called success leaves footprints. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. If you want to be a set designer, look and see what set designers do. There are lots of forums, you can see lots of pictures of the kind of work that we do. People come up all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, I would love to design houses for Halloween Horror Nights. And I'm like, well, do you have any sketches? And they're like, no. It's like, well, if you want to do it, show me that you want to do it, and do it just the same that Mike did. I mean, he wrote a script, not knowing if anybody was going to, want to produce it or anything, but do some designs, make some sketches so that people can look at your work and see that you're really serious about doing it. Because if someone does randomly say, okay, you don't have any work to show, but we'll give you a chance, and you're like, well, I really don't know how to do it. And you're like, well, that one opportunity was wasted. So be ready if somebody says, okay, let's see what you can do.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no Halloween Horror Nights 101 in college.
Maybe we should start that. Hell yeah. Hell, we should start that. Now, I will say that
We got to have these chairs, though.
the traditional road, as far as in any principle, as far as whether or not it's design or it's acting or it's directing or writing or whatever it might be, two kind of things that just sparked up is that, one, success does leave footprints. You need to make sure that whatever your art form is, whatever medium it takes, whether it's painting, sculpting, whatever it might be, you have to do it. It's not enough to just say, I want to be a writer or I want to be a painter. You should be painting or writing all the time. If not on a piece of paper or in a computer, then in your head. I can't tell you how my car rides home are just filled with nothing but notes in my head that I can't wait to spill it onto a page, because that's what I need to do. And secondly, everybody thinks that they need to go from 0 to 60 in like 2.6 seconds, and nobody here or in art and design got to where they are overnight. It just didn't happen. As lucky as we might be, and I consider myself one of the luckiest people that work in art and design, because like Mike, it was a right here, right now, kind of right place kind of thing. But when I graduated from college, I have an undergraduate and a graduate in theater, the traditional road like Manuel, and I said after I graduated that I wanted 10% of my earnings, whatever they might be, to come from my art. And the next year, I said I want 25% to come from my art. And the next year was 50%, then 75, then 100. And it worked out that way because I set reasonable goals and reasonable limits to myself, but said, I still want to get into whatever drives me. And you never know where those are going to take you. You might say that you want to design Halloween Horror Nights, but how do you know that you don't get into a carpentry shop in traditional theater and you find out that that's your outlet? You won't know unless you search it out.
Yes. I want to piggyback on that, and what he said is absolutely correct. You've got to practice your art. How many people out here would be interested in being makeup artists? Because that's my area. All right, cool. I interview all the makeup artists for that position, and I will get people who come in and who went to makeup school, 5-6 years ago, and they'll show me the pictures, and I'll say, well, what have you done since? Well, I haven't done anything since. And it's like, if that's really your passion, you've got to do it. When I got into this, and my background's a little different because I started doing this in the 80s when when the horror thing, kicked off, and I was living in California. I was in college, and I was a theater major, and there weren't a lot of people doing special makeup effects, so I got really lucky and got in, and got to work on things, because there weren't anybody else. It's like, well, you know what plaster is? Here, come over here and make this mold, But when I wasn't working on things or doing school, I was doing my own projects in my parents' garage. I don't think they parked their car in their garage from the time I was about 8 years old. It was taken over we turned it into a haunted house on Halloween, but I was always, if I wasn't doing that, I was working on it. And I've hired a lot of people. In fact, several of the people who are on Face Off, or I know at least one for sure, never was trained, was hired at Universal as a character, got into makeup, and practiced it on his own, and is now one of our best makeup artists. So, but if you're not practicing it, you're not going to get better.
Let's take another question.
Thank you so much.
Hey Mike, everybody. I know.
My middle name is
I
Mike.
know you guys have done some houses on video games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, and you're always looking for varied locations and different characters you can use. But I don't know if you guys have checked out Dark Souls or Bloodborne or anything like that.
I play video games all the time. I love them. I have a PS4 and a Wii U, and I have a PS3, and I have a original Wii. And I have a 9-year-old son who I can now have an excuse to play video games with. We don't play Bloodborne together, though, unfortunately. He's a little too young for that. But yeah, as far as the types of content where we look at to try and replicate. Because again, for those who has never been to Halloween Horror Nights before? Is there anybody in here? That's okay. You can raise your hand. It's okay. All right. For the 2 people in here. Horror Nights is really, there's been an evolution since the first year to what we're doing now. The first year was Fright Nights. It was a 3-night event, and it was one maze, a couple of characters, and it was just to be a weekend, to be a test, and it exploded. We kind of have progressions in the event. So there was kind of pre-Icon era, which is from 91 until 99, and then in 2000. Everything changed, and I'll get to your question, I promise. I'm going to take the long way. In 2000, everything changed. 2000 was the first year that we had an icon for the event, and I'm sure everyone here, except for the 2, know that icon was Jack the Clown. We did not create Jack. No one here in this panel created Jack. Jack was former art and design people that were brilliant. Kim Grommel, Michael Roddy, several others created Jack, and they literally changed the game for that event. Jack the Clown became his own entity. He became, and the only purpose was to give the event a voice. Because prior to that, it had been logo driven. It was all, every year had a different logo, but there wasn't a voice for the event. Jack the Clown brought that, as well as the man who has played Jack the Clown since day one. His name is James Keaton, and he was the other half to that equation. Michael and Kim kind of developed his look. Makeup artists, created his look at that time, but James Keaton brought the voice and the personality to that role, and that became that kind of worked. So actually, it worked really, really well. So every year after that became a different icon that kind of represented the event. And that was what we call kind of the iconic era of Halloween Horror Nights. And that has now shifted into a new scenario where it's a blend of original content and IP driven. Whether it's Walking Dead or Evil Dead or American Werewolf in London or yes. So the event is a balance to it that we try and maintain as best we can, where there's original ideas that we're able to create and present, as well as intellectual properties that are known, that people want to be a part of. They want to experience a 360 environment of Walking Dead. They want to, they want to experience American Werewolf in London. They want to experience a Resident Evil or a Silent Hill. And the IP game is always the most difficult one because, not to say the original content's not, but we always out. The IP game is a different animal because we're really trying to play into what's popular. It's pop culture. We need to kind of key into what will drive someone to want to come to the event, and something that we feel we can really do something with in a very real and in a significant way. So choosing the intellectual properties is probably the hardest thing that we go through because it's also not always us up here a part of that conversation. There's marketing and advertising and brand and insights team doing surveys, and there's these meetings we sit in where there's all this data and say, well, if you do this, it'll drive this audience. If you do this, it'll drive this audience. And we're like, okay.
Can't we just make something
So you just want to make something scary, and so it's this kind of this group collaboration that we were a part of to end up with where the IPs kind of land. Bloodborne's an awesome game. I love it. It's fantastic. If you haven't played it, play it. It's really, really good. Dying Light. I enjoy that one too. That's a good one. Actually, I have that on my GameFly right now. It's on the desk. So yeah, there's no one answer for that because there's so many conversations on what we end up going with as far as the properties that we choose. Video games have been a part of the event. They're also a little more niche as well, we've discovered. Silent Hill and Resident Evil, what we felt were great mazes. The general public who may not have played those games or may not be a huge horror fan, didn't respond as well. We do GSAT or surveys at the end of every single maze where we get all kinds of data when someone leaves. Usually it's right when they leave the event, they get these surveys that are taken. And every maze, every single street, every single bit of content is rated. And we get all that data, and we're like poring over it, going, okay, why did they think this way this weekend? What was different? Oh, it rained. Oh, everything dropped when it rained. Seriously. All the ratings go right down the toilet when it rains at the event, but that's psychological, Those surveys are all psychological. So we really play into all of those things to try and decide what is it we're going to do.
You want to see torture? Torture is watching the executives debate whether the high volume, which results in lower GSATs, is worth it. Because they want 40,000 people in the park, but then the GSATs go down. Then they want higher GSATs, which is put less people in the park. That's torture. GSAT is guest satisfaction survey.
It is an awesome cycle that we go through. It's not, the creative aspect is a large portion, but their theme park is a business. It's a business, and we're a part of that business as well. But it definitely drives how we create, and also instills in us to create. When we are given the opportunity to create a lot of original stuff, we really want to attack it the best we can. So, thanks, man.
No problem.
My question's very simple. My favorite character of all time was missing last year, and that's Rat Lady. That's my all-time favorite job. Is she coming back, and what happened?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, the question was, her all-time favorite character was not a part of the event last year, and that was Rat Lady. Yes, she's been a mainstay every single year, and she wasn't in the event last year. Why? the rats were on strike.
Working for the mouse.
She wasn't at the event last year. It was kind of a calculated thing because sometimes you take things away so that you may be able to bring them back, and they mean something.
Is the position open? Is she coming back?
Oh, are you asking for a job?
They gave you a hint already.
What is your experience with rats? You have experience with rats? Okay. Well, we hold auditions around the July timeframe, typically. It's usually once a week, so you'll see it, I'm sure, on our the audition website Universal has. If rats are your thing, then we might have something for you. All right?
Rats and puppets.
Rat Lady doesn't get paid any more than anyone else, but she does get a free tetanus shot.
That's an interesting idea. How many people in here are characters or have been characters in the past? Yeah! That's great. The hands that you're looking at right now are the lifeblood of the event. We cannot do what we do without them. Thank you guys. Guys are awesome. I think I know that guy $20.
I'll give you a quick quote that I use all the time from Mr. Aiello, and that is, if we consider you the Uber fans, you are our Uber fans. Mike has always said, if we take care of the Uber fans, the event will take care of itself, and that is absolutely true.
Hi, I have a question for all of you guys.
I'll stop talking. I talk a lot. Sorry, guys.
Last year, Halloween, and then the year before, American Werewolf in London. Awesome meeting. Will there be, will that pattern of classic horror IPs continue? Like, say, in the future, like the Amityville Horror or Night of the Living Dead, will that continue, making more bases on classic IPs?
I would like to think so. I would like to think so. I mean, we're all huge horror fans, first and foremost. I mean, yeah, give it up for the genre. It's funny because when you look cinematically, Westerns have more films than any other genre, believe it or not. But horror is catching it super, super quickly. Horror will eventually overcome Westerns as the #1 genre as far as the multitude of films are concerned. It's going to happen. And we wouldn't be able to do our jobs unless we were super fans of horror first. That's what drives us to do the job that we do, because we know that we have a responsibility, like Rick said, to all of you to get the event right. But also, when we walk through a maze, if we see something that we're not enjoying, or if we walk through the streets and we notice something that isn't quite right, based on our love for the genre, and for the themes, then we're not doing our jobs right, and we need to fix that. So I would hope so, but I can't speak for, the event.
Well, yeah, the intention every year is to try and do at least one that pays homage to everything that we as the current creators grew up with. That's why you saw Halloween, and I'm wearing them right now. Halloween shoes. Halloween's my favorite horror film of all time, so it's like, okay, if you get the opportunity to replicate that in any way possible, is always, it's like awesome. We're sitting at the table going, writing and drawing and creating and doing creating the masks, replicating this amazing, look. And sometimes there's like those pinch me moments, so it's like, wow, we're doing this. This is really, really damn cool.
Just a quick comment. I'm glad you brought up Halloween because I really hope that Michael Myers returns to Halloween. The sequel movies like Halloween 2, John Carpenter's Halloween 2, in the hospital, that would be amazing.
I know Season of the Witch.
Hold on. Let's put Horror Nights aside for a second. You just brought up Season of the Witch. That is a really great movie. Here's what happened with that. If they just hadn't called it Halloween, if it was just called Season of the Witch, everyone would be like, that's really good. If you have never seen it, because it's like, I'm not going to watch it because Michael Myers isn't in it. Well, you're wrong. He is in it. He's on a TV screen in the film, so he is technically in it. Go watch it. If you've never seen it, I'm getting all hyped up here. Seriously, see it. It's a good movie. It's a great story and unique. You don't see that story anywhere else. It's a really cool story.
It's the history of Halloween.
Absolutely. It's Halloween's tradition. That's right. Which will tie into what I'm going to read later.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi. Mike Myers here.
Michael, yes, he is here. I have a question. As far as, because you mentioned about technology at the event and the increasing use of it, and with obviously going on 25 years, how does technology inspire you guys to be more creative, to be able to engage your fans, and also people that maybe have never been to the event, to tie into the stories that you guys want to tell, and maybe more about the mazes and be more intrigued with the characters?
The technology advances has allowed us to create some houses that we wanted to do years ago, but we weren't able to. Something as simple as LED lighting has made the instruments that we have to put in the houses so much lighter and more diverse and variable, so that gives us an advantage. Some of the materials, forever wanted to do a spaceship, and finally in the last few years we've done some of that. So that changes it. We used RFID technology for the Legendary Truth folks who wanted to play. Last year we introduced beacon technology, and we'll have something even cooler that we're working on now. So we're just keeping an eye on how to use that technology in storytelling, whether it's projection mapping, which these guys put in the streets a few years ago. The Metropolis Tribune building would melt before your eyes. And so, I mean, all that stuff is we're keenly aware of. We travel, we look at it, we evaluate it and see how would it apply to this year's event.
That also applies to for makeup. We, you know, one of the things that my background is movies. I worked on films mainly for 20 years before I came here, and the cool thing for me, but I've always loved theater, Halloween, movies, and what I love about Universal is that it's a movie, it's a movie studio. So that's what people kind of come to expect, seeing a higher level in the scenic, in the costuming, and in the makeup. And so we try to use the latest technologies that are used in makeup. Silicone, foam latex, or latex masks are like the old school, but we use silicones now. Foam, rubber, latex, prosthetics, contact lenses, teeth. And then a couple years ago when, American Werewolf, of course, was huge for me, because that's, one of my favorite things. And, we got to do puppets. So the original concept that when it was presented was, some of the way it was written was that we would have guys in suits. And I said, that's not going to really work with this, with the way this puppet works. And we talked about puppets and how it would work, and everybody thought that was a good idea. And then last year we did Aliens. We did Alien versus Predator, and we did the aliens as puppets. So we, even in makeup and that area, we're trying to keep that technology. Because if you're used to seeing you go to a movie and you see it in a film. If we just had slip-over masks for everything, I don't think that would work.
Awesome, thank you.
Those puppets, I can't think of the werewolves as puppets, but they need to be robust. I mean, they are getting used for 2,000 people an hour, 8 hours a day. So, and they were violent. I mean, they were really snapping and so on. So the engineering them so that they would last, that was not easy from what I remember. Go ahead.
Hi. Two quick things. One, I was wondering if there's any possibility of bringing House of a Thousand Corpses from Hollywood. The second thing, a number of years ago, there used to be this demonic parade that I really enjoyed, and I was wondering what happened to that, where'd it go? Is there any chance of bringing that back?
Say that again?
It was like this demonic parade.
Festival of the Dead. Festival of the Dead parade. Yeah. All right, well, cool. I'll answer those real quick. I'll see the question I answered earlier, where we always have a catalog of things we want to do, and some things kind of fall off the table. House of Thousand Corpses has been on our list every single year. Hopefully at some point, just like Halloween was on our list for years and years and years, we wanted to do that maze, and finally last year we were able to. So again, we've got this dream list that we're constantly crossing things off that we're able to do, and it's still there. We just haven't been able to cross that one off yet.
Maybe we need to find the perfect recipe for Captain Spaulding's fried chicken.
Maybe that's what it is. I think so. And the Festival of the Dead parade, a gorgeous parade. That was pre-iconic era. So yeah, that was in the first 9-10 years of the event. Was the Festival of the Dead parade. There are logistical challenges with doing a parade now in the park. There are a lot of people that attend the event now. And to be able to, again, the event wasn't attended nearly as well as it was in those first 8 years. You're talking double, almost triple the attendance. So there are a lot of operational challenges that we are constantly investigating to figure out how we can bring something like that to the table again. We're not quite there as far as Horror Nights is concerned. Yeah, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey.
I've been going to the event since 2002, and the biggest game changer for me personally was the Legendary Truth, and when that storytelling element came out to the event. And I'm just wondering, 2008 was so immersive and tie in with the story for that program, for that whole storytelling element. Are we going to see something soon with, because I know it keeps falling a little bit short and things keep getting a little sidelined sometimes, but is Legendary Truth going to become a prominent force within the event again like it was back then when it first started?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, you know, obviously we are passionate about Legendary Truth. We love the collective. We have big plans for it, but it's always a matter of business as to whether or not, you know, they want to divert enough funds for us to do it as immersively as we did. I got to be honest, we do that under the radar very often, especially the first few years. No one really knew what we were doing. Now people walk around with Legendary Truth t-shirts all year round. So I keep hoping when I see them pop up at the grill that yes, it will be back, but I can't promise it. Our heart is there.
Thank you.
This will be the last question, so then I'll read this thing. Hi, hello.
This past year with the Bayou flood, the human sacrifice had to be scrapped because I think at least partially it was offending people. Do you think that's something that could hinder future years? And if so, how would you prevent it?
It's called Halloween Horror Nights.
Amen.
The quick answer is, no, that's not going to hinder that.
Yay!
We have things planned for this year that are of that vein.
Back when we did Terra Coentus and Islands of Adventure, we would drag a high school kid out of the audience and execute them on stage with a chainsaw and lower them into a burning pit, and no one said anything.
All right, last one. We've got some Purge devotees here. Yes, we do. I can't understand what you're saying.
Say character. One second.
Me and my son would just say, we love you, we love Horror Nights, we moved here 2 years ago, and we have a frequent beer pass, and thank you so much.
We're so glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, you know, the fans of this event, you guys, and the thousands that are not in this room are some of the best people in the entire world. So passionate and so nice. You know, we never have an issue with anybody coming up to us and saying hi, or because you're always so nice and down to earth, and we so appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we got about 11 minutes left. Should I read this thing to you guys? Yeah! So like I said, this was potentially a link to the 2007 event. And I've not read this. I apologize in advance for my 2007 writing. We'll see what happens. All right. Listen closely, it can still be heard. Within the wind and the cold, dark tonal notes dance. Inside the fog's memory, maniacal laughter reverberates. Wooden wagon wheels have etched trails into the earth leading off towards oblivion. It was here, on the crimson field, where horrors beyond comprehension flourished. But for now, the carnival is gone, but not forgotten. Nathaniel Crow remembered it well. He remembered the day he met the ringmaster, the clown whose face was masked in the shadows of night, simply asked for his land. He said that this place just seemed right. It had been a long and bloody history, this land, used for early pagan rituals. Many lives were sacrificed in the name of Samhain. For centuries since then, no living thing has prospered on this land. And just prior to Nathaniel owning the property, a number of townspeople burned down the funeral home of a murderous, grave-robbing caretaker, killing him inside. Now this land serves only as a home to rotting pumpkins sold for $10 apiece by Mr. Nathaniel Crow. "How's business, Crow?" the clown said through his mangled teeth. Nathaniel suddenly struck with the tiniest twinge of fear. "Slow," he responded. "This land is cursed," the clown said. Nathaniel was surprised at the statement, not because he didn't feel that it was true, but it was normally exclaimed as a question. "Always has been, always will be," Nathaniel said with a sigh. "I haven't sold a pumpkin, hell, I haven't sold, grown, or built anything on this land since the day I bought it, and that wasn't for lack of trying either. So you can put on your little carnival, but don't be surprised if the outcome of all of it is just like those pumpkins, rotting and dead." On that, Nathaniel Crow, you can count on, the clown said. For the first time, Nathaniel caught a good glimpse of the ringmaster's face in the moonlight as he spoke. His twisted, toothy smile promised wonders no man has ever encountered. He told Nathaniel that the land has put his blood, sweat, and tears into, and would finally pay him back with unimaginable power. Sensing nothing more than theatrics, Nathaniel left the form clown to his business. As though it happened overnight, the carnival opened. The wonders the clown spoke of were amazing to Nathaniel, in the way hell is wondrous to those who wish nothing else but to see its evils and bask in its flames. The dark carnival seduced Nathaniel in ways that cannot be explained. Temptation and sin filled his soul with sights and sounds the devil himself would consider morbid. It opened his mind to evils no man should want to survive through, but Nathaniel did survive. While all other patrons of the carnival were meeting untimely deaths, Nathaniel always walked away unscathed. "Why do you allow me to live when all around me perishes at your hands?" Nathaniel asked this ringmaster. "You'll see, Crow, you'll see." The ringmaster replied with a laugh. Those words echoed in Nathaniel's mind as he gazed upon his now empty field. Patches of soil now show only where tents once were. His fist clenched with anger. "He promised me," he whispered through his teeth. Hatred filled his soul as he lamented on power and wishes the clown prince vowed him he had not received. For the first time he felt cold. His hands now bled from being clenched so tightly. Feeling the dark liquid run down his palms and drip into the soft soil below, Nathaniel's eyes caught a faded carnival poster flapping in the breeze. A large gust ripped it from a blood-stained telephone pole it was attached to. Nathaniel followed the tattered poster with his eyes as it drifted effortlessly in the wind, up and down, finally resting in the palm of his bloody hand. However, now Nathaniel was surprised the poster was blank. No longer did it advertise Carnival of Carnage. Instead, he noticed his blood soaking into the parchment. Like running down glass, his blood fanned along the paper's fibers, forming letters. And it spelled this: "Forgotten are the ways of old, tradition's blood, black and cold. Up through dirt, roots grow and burst, evils return, you'll see what came first. When ravens and crows made the night black, pumpkins were carved to keep evil back. When the howl of the wind sent shivers up spines, graves of our dead covered in vines. When black cats crossed paths and wolves howl, and true witches did more than laugh and scowl. Your time has come, Nathaniel Crow. Outside the box, you'll think, you'll grow. Terror's traditions, its ways you will demand. Halloween's true self is at hand." The poem's final words echoed. His mind raced as he tried to sense what he just read. Looking down at the parchment once more, the letters turned back into liquid and raced back to his palms. Nathaniel's mind raced with visions. He heard, "Think outside the box. Ringmaster cranks a jack in the box. We are the four. You will be my finest work." A film director lines up his shot. But five we will become. A true tale of terror. An old woman brandishes a pair of scissors. Nathaniel Crow. A caretaker produces a pocket watch. Your time has come. The final vision Nathaniel saw in his own face, displaying the most evil expression. Crow's eyes disappeared and blackness replaced them. His jaw fell agape and candlelight appeared deep in his throat. The last thing he heard was a raven's shrill, ear-piercing call. Nathaniel awoke lying in the cursed field he owned, lifting his head, looking forward. Nathaniel saw something unreal. Hundreds of pumpkins he once sold and positioned in front of him, all brandished carvings of faces in pure terror, each lit from the inside. The candles burned in varied hues of red and orange. Just behind the rotting patch, hundreds of crows were perched atop a broken wooden fence. Their eyes glowed red, all focused on Nathaniel. And just as the moon crept from behind the clouded sky, every bird in unison cried out and leapt from their perch towards him. Instinctively, Nathaniel tried to get up. However, his cursed land had something different in mind. Mangled and porous roots shot through the ground with great force and stabbed through Nathaniel's appendages, pinning him. The chorus of crows flying towards him muffled his cries of pain. Landing on top of Nathaniel, the crows began pecking at his clothing and flesh. Digging and clawing, the crows tore deep into Nathaniel. He was being transformed. Every crow that removed a piece of flesh, large or small, another was at the ready to replace it with a piece of rotten pumpkin and straw. Quickly and meticulously, the crows ripped and replaced Nathaniel's body. The roots and earth that had once imprisoned Nathaniel now began wrapping into his hands and feet, creating earthy claws. While a crow pecked out his left eye, the ground forced Nathaniel into an upright position. Looking now like a grotesque marionette, the birds continued to peck away. His screams slowly transformed from a gritty liquid sound to a deep, resonating bellow as roots ripped through his neck, grabbing his jaw and breaking it, forcing it downward towards his chest. The skin and around stretching and tearing as another crow places a candle from a nearby pumpkin into his mouth. The candle's flame ignites a bright orange, its flickers lighting inside. One by one, the crows left the form that was once Nathaniel Crow and returned perched atop the rotting pumpkins. Landing, they gazed at what they had created, Halloween itself. All the fears, blood, revelry, and traditions that make up that eve so hallowed was infused into the body of a man. The roots finally lowered his body to the ground as two crows carried a large brown duster, their once costumed average scarecrow not far away. Nathaniel Crow was no more. Now, only Crow was born. His land, which contained the souls of Halloween's past, had given him the great power he was promised. His only purpose, to let none forget the true terror that Halloween was centuries ago. Simply put, to make the spirit of Halloween terrifying once again and uphold terror's tradition. It's his ways he will demand. Halloween's true self is at hand. So that's not happening. I appreciate you guys sitting through that. That was cool. That was fun to read. One more major announcement, May 19th. May 19th. You're going to find out something May 19th. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate it. Happy Halloween, everybody.